The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, featuring Jeff Upson and Eric Knopsynder. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in to the PA Power Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Upson, joined as always by Eric Knopsynder. And Eric, we got a big weekend coming up with Escape the Rock, pretty much the last big individual tournament until the postseason.
Yeah, this is a big one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it there this weekend, but you're going to be heading out there, taking in all the action and giving us reports as to what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is a tournament I've been to for the last several years, and very well organized and well-run tournament that Ed Evans does out in Council Rock South High School. A lot of good teams there this year, a lot of good individuals there this year. We got powerhouses like Bethlehem Catholic there, Southern Columbia. So it's going to be a fun way to sort of end that individual before we start really getting into that team portion of the season.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff to talk about on this episode. But before we get in that, Jeff, how you feeling today, Jeff? You good? Everything working all right today?
You don't need to say that, Eric. I mean, that's not funny. I'm already feeling depressed as it is.
Oh, come on. You turned 30 today, Jeff. It's not the end of the world.
I did. I turned 30 today. At least I have a few more years to catch up to you. So,
you do. And you've got your hair, so you've got that going for you.
I got my hair, my good looks. Yeah. So, no, my birthday's always been sort of second. It's always been on the back burner due to wrestling, whether I was competing or just covering it. I feel like when I was wrestling, we always wrestled Cedar Cliff the week of my birthday. Like all my memories of my birthday in high school was wrestling Cedar Cliff High School, and I always had tough matches against Cedar Cliff. So definitely a bittersweet time for me having a birthday. But yeah, I am 30, Eric.
Well, happy birthday, Jeff. I'm sure all of the PA Power fans out there wish Jeff a happy birthday.
No.
Big moment for him. No, but Jeff, I think you got a lot of fans out there for what you do for the sport, what you've done with PA Power, building it into what it is. So happy birthday to you.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric. It's hard to believe I've been doing this for almost 15 years.
Yeah, half of your life now almost.
Half of my life has been spent dedicated towards PA Power Wrestling in some capacity, which is really crazy. But regardless, I am excited to be heading out to Escape the Rock this weekend. Despite the inclement weather that's heading, at least I know we're supposed to get some bad weather out in Pittsburgh. I don't know what it's going to be like on the eastern part of the state. Hopefully it's not terrible.
The only time I've been to Escape the Rock was probably 4 years ago, and it was one of the worst ice storms I've ever seen. Like they actually changed the schedule on Sunday because the ice storm was so bad. It was miserable. So hopefully you don't have that.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, hopefully that's not the case with me out in Escape the Rock. But for this show, we're going to be previewing a lot of the Escape the Rock. That's pretty much going to be the main focus. We're also going to have a special guest on, legendary coach Jeff Karam of Bethlehem Catholic, the Golden Hawks, ranked number 1 in the state currently. And they got a really, really strong team this year, but a lot of guys under the radar. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. But first, Eric, let's just dive right into the Escape the Rock previews. And we got the seeds. I love the way that the Escape the Rock does the seeds. They do it sort of like a draft where they release them one weight class at a time, and they have a seeding committee. They all get together. It seems like a fun time. So maybe we should try to do that when we run a tournament.
Well, they do such a good job. You're right with the whole tournament. The Twitter account is fantastic. Throughout the season, they're giving you updates on teams that are coming, on ranked guys that are coming. You know, how many state place winners were there last year, all that. So it's a great account to follow, and they kind of get you ready for it the whole season long, getting ready for Escape the Rock.
I agree. They get you excited for it, and it's a tournament that's grown exponentially over the last 10 years. So, really looking forward to Escape the Rock. Looking at 106 pounds, the top seed is Nico Nardone from Del Barton. Del Barton's got a strong team this year, headlined by Pat Glory from Del Barton, who is a returning Escape the Rock champion, but he's a freshman. Number 2 seed is a Pennsylvania guy, Kyle Walderman from Council Rock South. This guy's a sophomore. I want to say, this is a bold prediction, but maybe he's in the conversation for the most improved wrestler in the entire state. This is a guy who is a sophomore, but last year as a freshman saw very limited time in the lineup, and now that he's fully in the lineup, we saw his name a lot on the offseason. He was wrestled in almost every tournament there was possible, freestyle, folk style. It didn't matter, and it's paying off because he's only got 1 loss on the year, and he's ranked number 3 in the state currently. So really looking forward to seeing him yet again this year.
Yeah, whenever you make that step up, like you said, from not seeing a whole lot of time last year to being the number 2 seed at Escape the Rock, that's a pretty good jump.
Yeah, Kyle Walderman, as I said, he's 16-1 this year. He was only 8-4 last year. He's definitely earned that number 2 seed at Escape the Rock. You look at going down to the 4th seed, we got number 9 in the state, Nate Lackman from Bethlehem Catholic. He just had a really big win last night. As I said, number 2 ranked Tyrese Fleming from Liberty. Lackman was able to earn a 1-0 decision over him last night when Bethlehem Catholic dueled Liberty. So that's a big win for him. He's number 9 in the state. He's only a junior. I mean, I'd say only a junior. He's a junior, but he's only been in the lineup for 1 year because of that sort of backlog of solid wrestlers that Bethlehem Catholic has. So I'm really excited to see how he does coming off a huge win against Liberty.
Yeah, and like you said, a junior that even though he hasn't had a ton of experience in the starting lineup, just that development, to be a junior in the 106-pound weight class where you're going up against a lot of freshmen and sophomores, I think that helps. A couple other guys that are in that category. We have actually one senior from Pennsylvania in the weight, Delaware Valley's Joey Porco, who is number 25, and he's the 9th seed. And then at number 10 seed, you have Robert Lawler of Father Judge, who's a junior. So a couple other older guys in there. In between, at the number 7 seed, you've got Jimmy Baxter from Cannon McMillan, a sophomore, and Kyle Hosserman from Council Rock North is a freshman at the 5th seed.
Yeah, Hosserman's a guy who I've been keeping an eye on this year. As you said, he's ranked number 11th in the state as a freshman. He was on our top incoming freshman report. But those upperclassmen, especially a guy like Robert Lahr, he's number 16 in the state. He's a junior wrestling down at 106. He was had some other guys behind him in the lineup last year, so he actually had to wrestle up at 113 pounds. Now he's down at 106. So can he make some noise here at Escape the Rock? But overall, Pennsylvania has a good showing at 106 pounds. If we move up to 113 pounds, you're going to see a lot of guys that you're not familiar with because they're from outside the state. But again, Del Barton's got the top seed here. Anthony Clark, who's a sophomore. Lucas Bird from Cincinnati, LaSalle is your second. And the number 4 seed is Max Mendez from Council Rock South, a guy who he actually wrestled down at 106 pounds this year, but got beat out by Kyle Walderman. So he moves up to 113 pounds. He was a state qualifier last year. He's currently ranked number 13th in the state.
Yeah, and as you said, quite a few more Pennsylvania guys in here. At the number 6 seed, ranked 8th in the state, is Sam Hanley from Northampton, a sophomore. And number 7 in the seeding and also in PA Power rankings is Liam Logue from Father Judge, a junior.
And you look at last year's Escape the Rock results, Anthony Clark from Del Barton beat Max Mendez in the 3rd place match at 106 pounds, beat him 11-0. So that shows you why Anthony Clark is as highly seeded as he is, because he just dominated, other than against Kirk McHenry, who's pretty tough in his own right. But if you look at those kind of guys, that's a deep weight class. Like you said, Sam Hanley from Northampton, he's currently ranked number 8 in the state. This is a guy who was dropped down from 120, where he had not a really good performance. When he was at 120 pounds, I think he was 500. He's a returning state qualifier, but he had some big wins at the Parkland duels. He knocked off several ranked guys, and he's down at 113 pounds. So A guy I'm really keeping an eye on, there's two freshmen here that I want to keep an eye on. Patrick Edmondson from Southern Columbia, currently ranked number 9 in the state, and Matt Mayer from Bethlehem Catholic, who's number 20 in the state. Both these guys I haven't seen yet this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they compete against these really tough opponents.
Man, Southern Columbia just keeps bringing up guys, don't they? Last year,
Young guys,
a great
yeah.
class. Yeah, just really building such a great program there.
Well, that's a great segue into 120 pounds because that's where we have Jarrett Lane from Southern Columbia. He's a senior. He's going to Lehigh next year, and he's a state champion. He's a returning Escape the Rock champion. He won it over Shane Hansen-Ashworth. He actually pinned him in overtime. I remember that match vividly. And Lane is just he's so methodical in the way he wrestles. But this is an interesting weight class because at 120 pounds, he has number 2 seed Brandon Cassis from Parkland, who actually 2 years ago beat Jarrett Lane in the finals at 106 pounds, which is kind of insane because Brandon Cassis never really did anything after that match because he didn't compete in the postseason. Last year, he was not in the lineup, and now he's back. He's currently ranked number 11th in the state. So, honestly, he has a win over Jarrett Lane at this tournament, but Jarrett Lane, as you said, he's one of the best.
Yeah, kind of funky here because you've got all 3 of those guys that have been in the finals here. So you've got Lane 1, Hansen-Ashworth 3, and Cassis number 2. So kind of just a lot of PA power here. The top 6 seeds are all Pennsylvania guys.
Yeah, and Eric, you look at how deep this weight class is. Cam Enriquez is number 6 in the state. He's the 4th seed. You look at Matt Lackman from BECAHI. He's the number 7th ranked wrestler in the state. And number 12 ranked in the state, Luke Lucerine from Council Rock North. He is a returning state medalist. So, just the top 6 seeds, as you said, that's going to be a battle in itself, let alone some of the other guys here. Kenny Heyman from Canyon Mac, who he's at 120. He's probably going to compete at 126 because Logan Macri is going to come back down to 120. Heyman's ranked number 17 in the state at 126 pounds, but he's down at 120 where he's probably more comfortable. So can he, knock off a few guys and make some noise? He's the 12th seed. So really looking forward to 120 because it's going to sort out a lot of rankings.
Do you know why they flip-flop for this one, Macri and Heyman?
I think, and I actually, when we did the WPIL, the War Up podcast with Greg Warnock, he asked me the same thing. And I think it's a combination of him winning the top competition, but also him getting ready to go down to 120. I think 26, he's still getting his body comfortable with going down to 120.
You're talking about Macri there.
Yeah, Macri. Even though we've seen him down at 120 at Powerade, win the tournament, but I think he still wants to give his body some time to get down. And also, you look at him at 126.
He's getting some competition there.
He's going to get some competition. And not that he wouldn't against Jarrett Lane. I'm not saying that. But you look at 126 pounds, Pat Glory from Del Barnes, your top seed. Pat Glory is the number 1 ranked wrestler in the nation. So if you're going to go headhunting, you might as well go big.
Yeah, it doesn't get much bigger than Patrick Glory.
Pat Glory last year just dismantled Matty Parker from Penridge, pinned him in the finals. Pat Glory also owns a win over Gavin Teasdale from earlier this year at Who's Number 1. And he's a guy who's really fun to watch. We got to see him a lot during his career at Del Barton. And as I said, Logan Macri comes in as the number 2 seed. He's currently ranked number 1 in the state at 120 pounds. Number 3 seed is Kenny Herman from BECAHI. He's the number 7th ranked wrestler in the state. He's a sophomore, and he had a good win last night again against Liberty, beating Travis Brown. But he's a guy who's only a sophomore, returning state medalist, so he's young. You look at Patrick Noonan from Stroudsburg, also another sophomore. He actually owns a win over Kenny Herman this year, and he's the number 6th ranked wrestler in the state.
You also have Nick Dolak from Parkland at number 7 seed. He's 11th in the state. And then number 5 in the state, but seeded 8th, is Mason Franks from Connellsville, a senior.
Yeah, and Mason Franks is the guy that I talked about a lot at Powerade because he knocked off Eddie Scott. It was a 10-10 match, and then he ends up defensive pinning Scott in the championship rounds. Scott ends up taking 4th at the Powerade, finishing ahead of Franks. But Franks he's a solid wrestler. He only lost to Chris Wright of Central Dauphin, I think 4-2 last week. So I like the way he wrestles. He's very aggressive. So Mason Franks is, I think, probably going to finish higher than his 8th seed here. But and some other guys to keep an eye on. You look at 126, another very deep weight class when you talk about Pennsylvania wrestlers. You got Jacob Downing from North Allegheny. He's currently number 18th in the state. He was a state qualifier 2 years ago. A freshman here, the number 13th ranked wrestler in the state, who I really like, is Jagger Condimiti from Northampton. Guy who was at 32, comes down to 26. I think he can make some noise here. And also Connor Quinn from O&J Roberts. He's number 21 currently in the state. He was at Malvern Prep last year. Now he's at O&J Roberts.
Yeah, and those three guys, even though they're ranked in the state, don't even get a seed here at Escape the Rock. So that shows you how deep that field is at 26.
I mean, yeah, it's obviously one of the top tournaments there is in the nation. And you look, as I said, Logan Macri, he finished 4th here last year at 120 pounds. So that just gives you perspective of how deep this tournament can be and is. You look at moving up to 132 pounds, Nicky Romeo from Hanover Park, New Jersey. My gosh, he's fun to watch. I like watching him wrestle. I feel like he's been around forever. And last year he beat Julian Klebov in the finals of Escape the Rock 3-1 in a pretty crazy match, very intense match. 2 high quality wrestlers going at it. But yeah, Nicky's he's pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, Klebov not here. I'm not sure what his status is, if he is going to come back. I know I read an article saying, that it's not anything on the mat. It's kind of off the mat stuff. So, we'd like to see him back, but, gotta get that stuff taken care of.
Yeah, and with Klebov, he has not wrestled a match yet this year. And I've had a lot of people ask me what's going on with Julian Klebov. Obviously, he's a 2-time state champion. He was has over 80 career wins and less than 5 losses in his career. So that's a guy that when you're missing from the lineup, it's concerning. But it's a lot of off the mat stuff that's going on, and I don't have any concrete details that I'm comfortable sharing, but it's something that he's got to get cleared up before he even gets on the mat. I think the school statement is it's a violation of school policy, and we have to wait for that to get cleared up before anything happens. So I'm not sure what is going to occur with that Julian Klebov, but it leaves a pretty wide gap because you look at a 2-time state champion, only a junior, so looking to be a 4-timer. Obviously, he wants to be on that mat. So he is not here at Escape the Rock, but Jared Papsey from Bethlehem Catholic he's currently ranked number 2 in the state. Now, him and Ryan Anderson flip-flopped. Ryan Anderson was at 32 for Ironman, got on some type of diet where he likes to eat a lot, and he goes up to 138. We saw him do that at Super 32, and how'd that work out for him?
It seemed to work out okay. He walked away with a belt.
He walked away with a belt. He did pretty well for himself. Well, he's back up to 138. Jared Papsey, returning state medalist, is down to 132, and Papsey is the number 2 ranked wrestler in the state and gets the 2nd seed. Jonathan Myers from Easton, he's only a sophomore. He's the number 7th ranked wrestler in the state currently. He's the 3rd seed. He placed here last year at Escape the Rock, and I believe it was he placed 4th here last year. So a good performance for a freshman to place 4th at Escape the Rock. But we also have another District 11 wrestler, Devin Britton from Northampton, who's a junior. Is qualified for the state tournament every year he's wrestled. He's number 6 in the state. So District 11's got 3 guys in the top 4.
Yeah, and then you get one down at number 7, the host school, Council Rock South, with Ben Radner. He's number 20 in the state, senior, and as I said, he's the number 7 seed there. And then one unranked guy, or 2 unranked guys actually, that are in the state rankings. Mike McKinney, a senior from Delaware Valley, is number 25, and Jacob Wren, another Southern Columbia guy, a senior, number 20.
Yeah, I know I'm the one who just turned 30 today, but you realize you just said not ranked, or is it not ranked wrestlers?
Unseeded, sorry. They're ranked
unseeded
in the state, but unseeded in the tournament.
Unseeded instead of unranked.
Yes.
Right? So
there are a lot of terms to throw around here, Jeff.
There are a lot of terms.
I'm a lot older than you.
You certainly. I know my cognitive ability. Today, I woke up and I didn't know what to do. I was like, "Oh, do I brush my teeth?"
Yeah, wait another 12 years.
I can't imagine, honestly. I just, it's crazy, but it is what it is. You move up to 138 pounds. This is going to be, as I said, Ryan Anderson, number 1 ranked wrestler in the state currently from Bethlehem Catholic, Super 32 champion. He was an Ironman medalist. He's the number 2 seed to Quinn Kiner from Kingsway. He's pretty tough, and this is, I believe, their first time here at the Escape to Rock, but he earns the top seed. And Ryan Anderson, obviously being up at 138 pounds, I'm only going to bet that he wins it.
Who would bet against him after that performance we saw in Greensboro?
I mean, they win belts here at Escape to Rock, and they win belts at Super 32. He already has a belt with the Super 32 logo on it. Why not get another belt for Escape to Rock? That's my question.
Kingsway, that's a New Jersey team, is that right?
Yes, that is a New Jersey team, and I believe Quinn. I believe he's ranked top 5 in the nation, and I believe that he is, considered one of the top guys. Actually, no, I lied. He's number 1 in the nation according to Intermat. So, wow. Kingsway Regional. He's going to Ohio State. So
I don't think we've seen him anywhere, have we?
I don't think we have. I know he was at Flow Nats, but I don't know if we've seen him other than that. I don't think we saw him down at Super 32. But Intermat has him number 1 in the nation, so I would venture to guess he's pretty decent at wrestling.
Yeah, it looks like Flo has him 5. Still not bad. He's
okay,
all right.
Well, Ryan Anderson's number 3 in the nation, so obviously we look at the talent here, and it's pretty insane. You look at the number 5th seed is Tim Harisco from Cannon Mac, who is number 14th in the state. He's a Powerade medalist. He hasn't made it to the state tournament yet, but he has done well so far this season. You look at Cameron Robinson from Council Rock North, only a sophomore. He's currently ranked at number 9 in the state at 138 pounds. He has a nice win over Zach Ortman from Parkland, who's still up at 145 pounds, but good time for him to show what he's made of at 138 pounds. And I should mention Tim Harisco is a returning ETR medalist. He was 6th last year at 138 pounds. So he actually returns back to 138 pounds, while Cam Robinson was 8th last year at 132. So a lot of returning talent here. It's going to be good.
Yeah, some good stuff there. As we said, guys right at the top of the national ranking. So, if we get that final between Anderson and Kinner, that should be a good one. But plenty of depth as well. Number 7 seed, ranked 8th in the state, is TT El Haj from Lower Dauphin, just a sophomore. And then one of my favorite names, number 8 seed and number 13 in the state, is Caesar Fountain from Father Judge.
Yeah, and Fountain he's undefeated in his season so far as a junior, a guy who's always been sort of on the bubble and competing in that Northeast region. But last week at the Central Dauphin Duels, he knocked off Andrew Wirt of Central Dauphin. Wirt bumped up from 32 to 38, wrestled Fountain, and lost to him in overtime. So that's a high-quality win for a guy who hasn't made it to the state tournament yet. So a good win for him. We'll see if he can carry on that momentum at Escape the Rock. You also have Henry Haig from Malvern Prep in there as a 9th seed. Eric Woloshan from Council Rock South is the 10th seed. And the 12th seed is Antonio Petticelli from O&J Roberts. I probably butchered that name. I am 30, by the way. So
could you do that in the French accent that you busted out while we were covering the Junior Worlds?
I don't want to bust out the French accent. Bonjour. I'll never forget that memory of us being in France. We're in the flat in our Airbnb covering Spencer Lee at the World Championship, trying to make a film. And the person who we're renting the Airbnb from, I keep on saying bonjour to as they're walking out.
And they keep turning around like, what do you want? We're leaving. Why do you keep saying hello?
Yeah, not knowing that, my opinion, and this is coming from someone who actually I lived in Europe for over a year. Bonjour does not go both ways. It's not a hello goodbye. So, but anyways, let's forget that. Let's move up to 145 pounds, where PJ Crane from Malvern Prep is your top seed. PJ Crane is a guy who's been at Prep, it seems like for a long time now. But he is the number 1 seed there. He was a champion here last year at 138 pounds, and kind of weird weight class where Dan Moran was third. PJ Crane beat him. Zach Stedford from North Allegheny was your runner-up. So PJ Crane, returning Escape the Rock champion. Number 2 seed is Zach Ortman from Parkland, who's currently ranked number 3 in the state. Zach Ortman's a guy who sort of sprung onto the scene last year at the state tournament. He knocked off Luke Kemmer twice in that tournament. So as I said, Zach Ortman has a chance to really cement himself here at the Escape the Rock.
Yeah, and Ortman is just one of many guys at the 145 class from Pennsylvania. It seems like the majority of the seeds here are PA guys, and then a couple of the unseeded guys are some pretty big names as well. You've got number 17 in the state, Evan Whiting from Penridge. He's at number 5 in the seeding. Right behind him, Cole Hanlovic of Bethlehem Catholic, a sophomore. He's the 6th seed, ranked number 18 in the state. Skip down, you've got Jeremiah Oakes of Scranton, a junior. He's number 14 in the state and seeded 8th.
Yeah, Eric, and you look at a lot of guys who are not ranked in the state, but they're seeded. Joey Stoke of Lower Dauphin, formerly of Central Dauphin, Michael Kistler from Northampton, Cole Meredith, Owen J. Roberts, Tanner Rohaley from Cannon Mac. These are guys that are all seeded. They're not ranked in the state currently. They've all been ranked in the state, but 45 it's a really deep weight class this year. You got Nico Coons from Bell Vernon also in there. And a freshman that I'm looking forward to seeing is Tate Nichter from Chambersburg, currently ranked number 23 in the state. He's unseeded, but like his older brother Luke, he's looking to make a name for himself here at Escape the Rock.
You think that's just the fact that he's a freshman, doesn't have quite the resume that some of the other guys do, that he's unseeded there?
I would say so. Probably the resume. He's done well this year, but not. He hasn't blown anyone away, and he's had some quality wins, but nothing too crazy. But it's something that you look at as a freshman. Yeah, you're gonna have to earn your right to be in the top, seeding portion of that tournament. But Thane Lawrence of Fraser, Thane the Pain Lawrence, and I'm going to make that stick. I'm going to at least try my hardest to make that stick. He is currently ranked number 2 in the state at 152 pounds behind Justin McCoy. The sophomore from Fraser was a third-place finisher last year at the state tournament. He's competing in his first Escape the Rock. But, Eric, this is a guy who made noise down at Super 32 that we had guys asking us, who's this Thane and where's Fraser at? So, I'm excited to see how he competes against a really, really stout field here.
Yeah, it's good to see Fraser getting him in there, giving Thane a chance. As you said, he hasn't been able to wrestle in too many big in-season tournaments just because of kind of the limitations that Fraser has with a small squad. So this is awesome to see Thane go down there and get a chance to show what he can do against some of the top AAA guys in the state, some of the top guys from out of state, and just a great tournament like Escape the Rock.
You look at the number 3 seed, and that's Brock Godson of Bell Vernon, who's currently number 4 in the state. He had a little bit of a rough weekend over at the Westmoreland County tournament. He lost twice. He lost to Corey Christian, and he lost to Jack Bloomer, but he's still ranked number 4 in the state. He's a returning state medalist. He was 3rd here last year at Escape the Rock at 152 pounds, so you would have to think that he would be in that conversation as well. William Ivaniski from Scranton, he's actually currently ranked number 2 in the state. He's a returning state medalist from Scranton. He's the 4th seed. So excited to see how he does, because he hasn't had the that match that you look at and you say, yeah, he's definitely earned that spot in number 2. But this is a chance for him. If he could knock off some of these tough guys here, he can definitely earn that spot at number 2 in the state.
Well, there are plenty of opportunities here. Looking over it, looks like we've got 5 guys that are ranked in the top 5 in either AA or AAA at the 152 weight here, because you've also got Clayton Ulrey from Lower Dauphin. He's seeded 5th and ranked number 5 in the state. And then you've got Nathan Hobbert from Palisades, who's ranked number 3 in the state and seeded 7th.
Yeah, there's no shortage of talent there at 152 pounds, as you said, between AA and AAA. Halbert was a guy he was 4th in the state last year, so this is a guy who was a state medalist a year ago. He's only seeded 7th, so that just shows you where that depth is. And then you have Chris Hissey from Malvern Prep. This is a guy who finished 7th last year at Escape the Rock. You got Luca Frenzy from Bethlehem Catholic, who's currently number 10 in the state. He's a junior. He's the 9th seed. And then you got Drake Brenneis from Chambersburg, who's number 13th in the state. He's the 10th seed. He was a state qualifier last year. Cade Lynn from Southern Columbia, number 6 in the state. He's the 11th seed. I was a little bit surprised at his seeding because he took 8th last year at Escape the Rock. So, wondering why he wasn't a little bit higher. And then Dan Mancini from O&J Roberts is also number 6 in the state in AAA. He's the 12th seed. So a lot of just depth here at 152 pounds. Probably one of the toughest weights of the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, as you said, the top is really tough with 5 guys there, and then some really good depth as well. So you get both at 152. It's top heavy, but it's also deep.
You look at 160 pounds, and you got 2 WPIL stars here. Zach Hartman from Bell Vernon is a number 1 seed, and your number 2 seed is an Escape the Rock champion, Garrett Nyhouse from Cannon Mac. This is a guy who last year as a freshman won the tournament at 152 pounds. He moves up to 160 pounds, where he is the 2nd seed to Zach Hartman, who last year was 3rd at Escape the Rock. But Hartman owns a pretty convincing win over Garrett Nyhouse from the Powerade tournament, so I'm not surprised by that seeding. They're currently ranked number 2 and number 3 in the state, respectively, so definitely not surprised by that. But, man, these two, again, could meet. It could be a good match again.
Yeah, and as you said, kind of going across the state to possibly face one another in the finals, even though they're both from the western part and have already seen each other. But definitely could be a really interesting matchup if we see it again. See if Nyhouse can perform a little better this time than he did against him in Powerade.
You look at the 4th seed. He's currently ranked number 5 in the state. That's Jacob Brigetti from Scranton. He is a guy that I want to see compete. I haven't been able to see the Scranton guys this year. Angel Garcia, a guy who's 6th in the state and is a 6th seed, is Angel Garcia from Mariana Bersetti out in Philadelphia. This is a guy who you don't typically see at District 12. You're not going to see a whole lot of District 12 guys competing across the state, but Angel Garcia is a guy who was a state qualifier last year. We saw him out in Fargo, actually. I'm excited to see how he competes because this is really the first big tournament of his season. So if he can do well here, he's probably going to end up moving up the rankings.
Yeah, and that's what's nice whenever you're able to see some guys that you don't necessarily get to see. Like we talked about, you can see Thane Lawrence wrestle, but to see him and how he does in a Escape the Rock and to see how an Angel Garcia does really gives you a much better understanding of where they slot in as far as the rankings go.
You got the 8th seed is number 21 in the state, Logan Green of Penridge. He's only a sophomore. Number 13 in the state, and the 10th seed is John Hoover of North Allegheny. He had a great tournament up at Tool City last weekend, so he's looking to keep that going. Number 7 in the state is Cal Halliday from Southern Columbia. He is currently ranked, as I said, number 7 in the state, and if you look at it, I'm surprised at where he's at in the seedings because he's only the 11th seed, but he is only a sophomore. So definitely a guy who we should probably keep an eye on.
Is it just me, or does it seem like there's a Southern Columbia kid seeded in almost every weight class?
Yeah, I mean, they're really good, Eric. I'm really excited to see the Southern Columbia program this year. I haven't seen them compete yet this year, but I'm very high on them and the way they wrestle. So excited to see how they do in a really tough tournament. They were at the Trojan Wars the week of Powerade, so I wasn't able to go out there to see them. But they're pretty solid throughout. There's not a lot of holes there in their lineup. If you move up to 170 pounds, sort of a good time to talk about this. Another Southern Columbia wrestler. You got Gage Garcia from Southern Columbia, a guy who a lot of people probably know because of his football skills. He's one of the top running backs in the state. For Southern Columbia. And it seems like Southern Columbia, speaking of that, they're always good at football, aren't they?
They're always good at football. Incredible football program there. And now building into an incredible wrestling program as well.
Well, you look at Gage Garcia, and he's no stranger to success. His father was a pretty solid wrestler in his own right. But Gage Garcia is a guy who is trying to really break that barrier and get to that next level. He was a state medalist last year as a freshman, but he's trying to get over that hump, as well, just to really solidify himself as one of the top wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania. So I'm excited to see how he does. He was banged up last year, as we saw, and he wasn't able to compete at Escape the Rock. But this is his chance to really prove to the state that he's for real. He's going to have a tough guy at St. Christopher's, Jackson Turley, who was 5th last year at the Escape the Rock. So he earns that number 1 seed.
Yeah, and then there are a couple of PA guys right behind him that he's going to have to possibly beat at least one of to get to the finals. And Scott Joel, who of Bell Vernon, who is the number 3 seed, he's ranked 4th in AAA. And then he wouldn't see him on his half of the bracket, but number 4 seed Luke Nichter of Chambersburg is the number 2 ranked guy in AAA.
Yeah, these are 2 sophomores, Gage Garcia and Luke Nichter, that have seen each other already this year twice. Gage Garcia does own 2 wins over him already. But Luke Nichter, a sophomore, he's currently ranked number 2 in the state. Scott Joel is the guy who I'm really looking forward to seeing how he competes. At Powerade, we saw him just dismantle Jason Montgomery of Bell Vernon, who was a returning state medalist. Then again, the week after at the Westmoreland Counties, he had a really good tournament. So Scott Joel has a chance to, again, keep that going here at Escape the Rock. Looking forward to seeing how those 3 finish out. But then you have a guy named Joe Kurtz from Bethlehem Catholic, who is the 14th ranked wrestler in the state, and he's number 10 seed at the Escape the Rock. Joe Kurtz is a guy who I believe only wrestled a little bit limited action last year. Couldn't find a spot in the lineup. There's guys like Mikey Labarola there. Not a bad guy to be behind, but, can he make some noise and finish high on the podium? We will see.
Yeah, and then you've got number 11 seed is Jarrett Canfield of Stroudsburg. Number 12 is Nick Corbett of Council Rock South. And then unseeded, you get Michael Standish of Albert Gallatin and Jacob Smalley of North Allegheny.
Yeah, and Canfield's a guy who placed at the Powerade. He's not ranked in the state, but he did place at the Powerade, so clearly, he's got some credentials. So we'll see how he's able to compete here at the Escape the Rock. Moving up to 182 pounds, the big news here is Josh Stillings not being able to compete. If you listen to the college podcast, you may know this already, but Josh Stillings competed in an open tournament, the Franklin Marshall tournament, a college tournament, and he got injured. He's going to be back probably in a couple weeks here, but they're going to play it safe because Escape the Rock's not a tournament you want to go into, not healthy, so to speak. It's a tournament that you're going to get beat up at. So postseason is what matters. So Josh is not going to be competing here at Escape the Rock, where he was a runner-up last year. But we're going to have a lot of PA power here. Tim Wallace from Albert Gallatin, a guy who we had on the show a couple weeks back at the Powerade. He's your 4th seed. Tim Wallace is a 3rd place finisher at the state tournament, but he had that huge win over Cody Mulligan of Sagertown at the Powerade. Eric, I'm looking forward to seeing how he competes here at Escape the Rock.
Yeah, and I believe he followed that up with an OW performance last week as well.
Yeah, when he competed at the TriCat and beat Dom Fundy from Best Center, who was a state runner-up. So, yeah, he's been doing well. I mean, he did drop that finals match to Trent Hidley, but there's no shame in that. So, looking forward to seeing how he can do out here in the eastern part of the state. Another guy I'm keeping an eye on is Brandon Schaefer from Lower Dauphin. He's 13th in the state currently. He's a 9th seed here. And there's some other guys that probably could end up making some noise that aren't in the seedings, but Mason Nicholson from Bell Vernon is a sophomore. Andrew Kidd from Delaware Valley, he's a senior. He's currently ranked number 16 in the state. He's had a really good year as a senior. He's been a guy who's been a starter, I think, for 3 years now for Delaware Valley, but he's having a good year. So I think he's going to finish a little bit higher than where he's projected to, not being seeded at 182 pounds.
Moving up to 195, not a surprise here. The top seed, Michael Beard of Malvern Prep. Just a guy that I think we expect to be here and certainly to be in the finals and probably to walk away with a belt.
Yeah, he's won a few belts here before. In fact, last year he won by tech fall over Drew Peck. He's pretty good. I think he's going for his 3rd belt, 3rd or 4th, actually. He may be going for his 4th. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check my notes on that. But he's definitely going for at least a 3rd belt. Michael Beard is. He's a Penn State commit, ranked number 2 in the nation. He's a national prep champion. He's pretty good. Elijah Jones from Boyertown, who's currently ranked number 2 in the state. He's your 2nd seed at 195 pounds. Elijah Jones was a King of the Mountain champion. He was 3rd last year at Escape the Rock, so He's definitely capable of doing well here. And then you got Blake Barrick from Big Spring, who's the number 3 ranked wrestler in the state. He's the 4 seed. Blake Barrick lost to Elijah Jones in the finals of the King of Mountain, but it's a guy who's going to American. He's been a state qualifier before. I think he's going to have a good showing here. And last year, he actually finished 7th at Escape the Rock, so I think he's going to improve on that finish.
Yeah, and then you've got Nate Ansel of Connellsville. He's ranked 6th in the state, number 7 seed here. And then another one of these Bethlehem Catholic guys that we've been talking about, Robert Spezza, number 8 and the 8th seed. He's one of these guys that, we didn't know a whole lot about coming into the season, but, really starting to make a name for himself.
Yeah, he's had some huge wins. In fact, he just had a big win last night over Damon Moyer from Liberty, who was a returning state qualifier, and he's very tough. So he's knocked off a state medalist and Greg Bensley from Pocono Mountain. He's knocked off Damon Moyer. So I would expect him to do the same here at Escape the Rock and finish higher than his projected seed at number 8. Moving up to 220 pounds, the number 1 ranked wrestler in the state is your top seed, and that's Ian Edenfield from Laurel Highlands. He's the one-man show right now, and he's been everywhere. He's been Ironman, Powerade, Beast of the East, TriCAD, and now he's going out to Escape the Rock. My gosh, I mean, for a guy who doesn't wrestle any dual meets, he's certainly getting his licks in against some of the nation's top team. And the good thing is there's no one from Lake Highland Prep here, so he's not going to see anyone from Lake Highland Prep.
Yeah, he can avoid that. But, man, he put together a schedule for himself, didn't he?
You have to. I mean, when you're not wrestling anybody and you're a one-man team, you kind of have to. But this is not Ian's first time at Escape the Rock. He was here last year, and he finished 3rd. That was a weight, if you remember. Joe Doyle from Council Rock South finished 1st, and Josiah Jones from McCourt finished 2nd. So Ian Edenfield is here at 220 again, where he's the top seed.
Was that in a ride-out?
I don't believe it was a ride-out. It probably was, though. If Josiah Jones loses, it's only in ride-out.
And we didn't get to share this since we did the last podcast before the Powerade finals. Josiah came up to us after the finals and told us, I couldn't let it go to a ride-out. I listened to the podcast before the finals, and I heard what you guys said about me, and I couldn't let it go to a ride-out.
Poor Josiah. I love that kid, though. He's a great kid. So Ian Edenfield is your top seed here. Not a whole lot of Pennsylvania wrestlers seeded in the top 9. John McCarthy from Delaware Valley, he is in there. He's currently ranked number 10 in the state. He's a 7th seed. And some other guys, as we mentioned, Bethlehem Catholic, Nate Andrew, number 17 in the state. He's not seeded here. Zach Reck from Boyertown, number 21 in the state, not seeded here. Jacob Frank from Easton's number 25 in the state. 220 is a little bit of a weak weight class when you look at the state overall, but that's not saying that these guys can't compete with some of these big guys here. But Ian Edenfield, I think he's poised to get that championship title because he just got his first title of a tournament last week at the TriCAD. He had not won a tournament since then, so I think he's looking to continue that. That
would be a nice second one to get, Escape the Rock.
Yeah, if you're going to win one, I mean, obviously Ironman and Powerade and Beast are very tough, but Escape the Rock's one that, especially that he's been here before, it would be nice to see him come away with the belt. If you move up to the big boys at 285 pounds, the top 3 seeded wrestlers are no PA power there, unfortunately, but the 4th seed is Corey Dotson of Albert Gallatin. He was a Powerade medalist. He's currently number 9 in the state. The 5th seed is number 20 in the state, Connor Fulmer from Southern Columbia. He is your 5th seed. And Jonathan Pineda.
Pineda?
Yeah, you finish it out. After Connor Fulmer, you finish that out.
6th seed is number 14, Jonathan Pineda of Easton. And then another senior, Derek Devine of North Allegheny, is the number 7 seed, and he's ranked 11th in the state. Down at number 11 in the seeds, Logan Petrosky of Bell Vernon. He's ranked 19th in the state. So a lot of senior-heavy class here. All those guys are seniors. So we'll see how they can do in their last go-around at the Escape the Rock.
And what's interesting to me, Logan Petrosky from Bell Vernon, he's a guy who was not in the lineup the last, I think, 2 years. He was there maybe as a freshman, but he's making his return. And Derek Devine has been out of the lineup, and he's returning to the lineup to hopefully have a good performance here at Escape the Rock. So overall, I mean, what are your overall thoughts here at the Escape the Rock?
Some weight classes that look really good for Pennsylvania to do really well, and then a couple, especially here at the end, where I'm not sure how well we're going to fare. Some tough guys from other states, and as you said, maybe a little bit lighter on the talent pool for Pennsylvania and some of these upper weights. But definitely see the ability to come away with quite a few champions, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of PA power in these finals that you'll see on Sunday.
And Eric, I failed to mention, but I know you're talking about the depth here up at some of the upper weights, but at 285 pounds, 3 of those guys are returning medalists at Escape the Rock. John Fulmer from Southern Columbia was 5th. John Penna from Easton was 6th. Derek Devine was 7th last year. So these guys have gotten onto the podium here at Escape the Rock before. So there's a good chance they can do that again. But overall, you're right. There's some hammer weight classes here with guys ranked top 5 in the state, all meeting, potentially meeting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything shakes out. But as you said, there's a lot of non-PA wrestlers here, especially at the top of the seeds, because you got guys like Pat Glory from Del Barton. Del Barton, as I said, has the first 3 number 1 seeds. You got Nicky Ramo from Hanover Park, New Jersey. So there's a lot of big name guys here, not PA guys. So it's going to be good to see how these guys can mix it up with them.
Yeah, and Jeff, is there any weight class in particular that you're looking forward to?
There's obviously a lot that has some background to it. 120 is a weight that I'm really looking forward to because of the history here. You got Jarrett Lane, who was a champion last year, but he was a runner-up to Brandon Cassis several years ago, and now Cassis is back in the lineup. Shane Hansen-Ashworth fell victim to Jarrett Lane in overtime last year. So I'm looking to see how those guys do. Matt Lackman from Bethlehem Catholic, he's a gamer. He can knock off some of those top guys. So 120 is a weight class that I'm looking forward to. 182 was because I wanted to see Tim Wallace and Josh Stillings go at it, but that won't happen, unfortunately, because Josh is getting healthy, which I'm all for, and hopefully he is able to get healthy. 152, super deep weight class. You look at Thane Lawrence, Brock Dodson, William Ivaniski, and Clayton Ulrey, all in the top 5 seeds there. Nate Halbert as well from Palisades, who's the 3rd ranked wrestler in the state. A lot of talent here at 152, a lot of deep weight class. So looking forward to 120, 152. All of them, Eric. Really definitely looking at all of these weights, but there's definitely some that stick out more to me.
Yeah, and these ones that you talked about, like 120, 152, that's where it's fun, where you get, not just a great finals matchup, but you get great semifinals and even quarterfinals and, maybe even round of 16 matches where you're like, man, I got to see this one.
Sure. I agree. It sort of reminds me of Powerade and the way that shakes out. So overall, looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to talking to Bethlehem Catholic head coach Jeff Karam, because there's a few guys on here from Bethlehem Catholic that are seeded and are ranked, and I'm like, man, who are they? Where'd they come from? So looking forward to talk to Jeff Karam about his performance last night against Liberty, his brother. That's a good rivalry they have there between Liberty and Bethlehem Catholic. Bethlehem Catholic was able to come out with a big win. They're currently ranked number 1 in the state for good reason. But I'm excited to pick his brain about, just how the team is. So, Eric, I think we should bring him on.
Sounds great.
Join us now is the head coach of Bethlehem Catholic, Jeff Karam. And, Jeff, you had a big win last night, a little bit of a family rivalry there, but you're looking forward to another dual meet tonight, and then you got Escape the Rock on Saturday and Sunday. You guys must be really grinding right now.
Yeah, Jeff, it's that time of the year. You get into January, and it's time to step up. And, had a big match last night with the brother. And they're a very good team, by the way. Very good team. And the score really isn't indicative of how good of a match that was. And, we got one tonight against East Stroudsburg North, a league opponent. And then tomorrow we go to Escape the Rock. Then next week we come back, we got Wyoming Seminary. So it's tough time of the year, but my guys are used to it, and hopefully, we can step up.
You mentioned sort of Liberty, and I think you're right. They're sneaky good. They got a lot of guys that I would say a little bit under the radar, but I would say jumped off the page at me, 106 pounds, with Nate Lackman knocking off Fleming in a 1-0 match. That was a huge win for him. Fleming's just been pretty incredible this season so far. how's Nate Lackman progressing? I got to see him at Ironman, and I know his brother was the one who really had all the highlights. But how's he doing down at 106?
Yeah, he's doing phenomenal. He's a great kid. He's a hardworking kid. The best thing about Nate, what I could say about him, when you talk about wrestling, I mean, he's good in all three areas. He's good on his feet, he's good on top, he's good on bottom. So, if you're even with him on one area, he finds your weakness and he finds a way to win matches. And he actually he's a junior 106 pounder. You don't get many of them, but he's mature. Obviously, being a junior 106 pounder, he's a very smart wrestler. He has that really good mat awareness. Last night he won that match 1-0, but as I say that, I mean, he dictated the action. He was in on a lot of shots. Just couldn't finish a couple close attacks there. And on the mat, I mean, he rode him tough, came close one or two times of getting some back points. And, he got out on bottom. He did what he had to do. But it's one of those matches. It was 1-0. But as a coach, I really felt like he controlled the pace of the match. And, it was a good win for him. I mean, Reese is a quality kid. And, I just think my kid's pretty good, too.
And you look on the opposite end of the spectrum, up at 195 pounds, a guy who really just came out of nowhere. I mean, I know he's been with Bethlehem Catholic for a couple years now, but Robert Spiza at 195 pounds knocks off Damon Moyer. That he's wrestling like he belongs there. I mean, I've never seen him wrestle like this. Talk about his development.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you brought up the Lackmans, Nate and Matt, Robert Spezza. I have another kid in my lineup, Joey Kurtz. Those are all kids. They're all junior varsity district champs last year. I mean, we just didn't have the spots in the lineup for them, but they worked hard this off season. Robert Spezza, especially, bringing him up. I mean, he was the big thing with a lot of it was confidence, and you know how wrestling is. I mean, confidence is a big part of it. And he put the time in this off season. He went to tournaments just about every weekend. He was in the room, didn't miss a workout. And you can see it right from the get-go. He didn't get the results he wanted at Ironman or Beast, but he definitely beat some quality kids, especially at the Beast. I mean, he was right there. And, we saw it in the off-season, especially this summer, that this kid was somebody we're going to have to count on. And, early on then, we had a dual meet against Pocono Mountain West, and he knocked off a state medalist, that Bensley kid.
Right.
And he beat him pretty good. Yeah, I felt good about that. And, people were saying, obviously, with the crosstown rivalry with us and Liberty and the brother thing, the Moyer kid's a big kid on their team, and everybody knows him. He made it to regional finals last year. He gave Stefanik a pretty good match in regional finals, if I recall. And people were saying, what do you think's going to happen? Well, in the back of my mind, I guess because he's my kid, but also I seen him wrestle. I just thought Robert would be right there last night, and sure enough, he was. He wrestled really tough. He has really nice attacks on him. He's another one last night. I mean, he just controlled that entire match. So that's a good win for him. Unfortunately, on the other side, I'm not going to be able to hide him anymore. I'm sure the name's going to be out there, and other coaches are going to maneuver what they have to do.
Coach, that's one of the things that really impresses me about you guys is how you're able to keep those guys, keep them involved and get them going to all these tournaments whenever last year they weren't able to break into the lineup. In today's society where sometimes, everybody wants everything right away, how do you keep those guys motivated and keep them improving whenever they're not getting the varsity time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm pretty blessed with the program I have and the kids I have in this program. They're good kids. They come from good families, and they're willing to put the work in. And, what I have to do, I have that luxury where I have kids that I know are junior varsity right now, but I'm sure they could be varsity on a lot of other teams. So what I do is, like tonight we have a dual meet against East Stroudsburg North, and not to take anything away from them. They're a younger team, and, so what I'll do is I'll take some of those guys that aren't seeing some varsity action. I'll let them see some varsity action tonight in our gym. They thrive for that. I mean, these kids, they want to put on that Becca singlet. They want to wrestle in our home gym in front of a packed house like it was last night. I mean, we didn't have an open seat in this gym last night. It was a great environment, and I think the kids thrive for that. They want to get out there and they want to represent, and the kids they looked up to earlier when they were little kids here coming to the gym, they want to emulate that. They want to be like that. So, like I said, I'm the first one to say, I'm pretty blessed with that. We really are, but I'll take it.
And Jeff, you talked about just keeping guys motivated and going back and, getting back to work. You're going to have to get back to work at Escape the Rock. It's a tournament that you've been at before. I got to ask you, you got a good problem there in the 126, 138 range. You got Jared Papsey and you got Ryan Anderson. Ryan Anderson is back now at 138, where he won the Super 32 title, which is awesome. He wants to get another belt now to Escape the Rock. And talk a little bit about Papsey and Anderson, how they've developed.
Yeah, and with that, you said I got a problem. Well, we still have 4 guys out of our lineup.
Right.
Don't forget Zach Glenn's a 2-time state medalist.
Sure.
I got some good news about him. Hopefully, he'll be coming back. And Dylan Murphy, he was our starter 13-pounder. He should be coming back real soon. And Tavion Banks, he's coming off football still. He's a little sick. We're going to get him back. And also have another 220-pounder, Joe Bozzi. So we've got some other guys chomping at the bit to get in there, and hopefully we get a little better here in the coming weeks. But anyway, going back to what you said, you were talking about Papsey and Anderson, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that's one thing about our guys here. I mean, their team comes first. They know that. I tell them that's the way it is. I mean, it's team first. Postseason starts after February 10th, as far as individual postseason. So they know it's all about the team. And when we have dual meets, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to win a dual meet with our lineup. And sometimes kids get their feelings hurt, but they're used to it. They know I'm just going to go out there and send out the best lineup that I think can get us the win. With Jared and Ryan, is no different with them. Ryan's having a hard time making 32. I know that's hard to believe if you look at him. Right? Yeah, the kid, his diet consists of ice cream, cakes, and cookies. He's a terrific young man. He really is. He's one of those kids on your team. He's just so much fun to be around, and that different personality. I mean, that's a great thing about coaching all these kids. But like I said, he's a team player first, and he was making 32 for us early, and he's like, Coach, it's just I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it if I don't have to. And I talked to Jared, and Jared said, Coach, I'll go down to 32. So right now they flip flop. It may not stay like that. Sure. It may be something. Where down the road, I mean, that's a tough cut for Jared. He's doing that for the team right now. So it may be something where I flip it back. I'll talk to them and see what they want to do for the postseason. But I'm not concerned about it right now until after February 10th. I think either or, I mean, those are 2 tough kids to have in your lineup. And, if you can beat both those kids in a dual meet, well, then you got a pretty good team. You're going to give us a run for our money.
Yeah, and Ryan showed that, as we said, that he can perform at 38, that's not an issue for him going up there.
Yeah, Ryan, I think he can perform at 195.
He probably could.
You look at him, and, I don't know if you talk to other guys that wrestle him. He is unbelievably strong. Yeah. I know he doesn't look it, but I've been around this sport a long time. He is unbelievably strong, and he's very, very quick. Yeah. He has probably the quickest feet I've ever seen of any kid I ever coached. And, he's fearless, too. Yeah. I think you saw it last year at States. He had to wrestle Spencer Lee, and he went out there and, he just had fun. He gets excited to wrestle, regardless of who he's wrestling. So, those things, you got unbelievable strength, you're pretty quick, and you don't fear anyone. Chances are you're going to be a pretty good wrestler.
Right.
I was actually standing Matt's side whenever he came off after that Spencer Lee match, and I just remember a big smile on his face that, he's like, hey, I did all right. I didn't get teched.
Part of his personality. He's such a humble young man. He's so humble, and, even to this day, yes, sir, no, sir, and that's the way he is. And, that's good parenting, and, I'm very proud that he's a part of our program.
When you look at this year's lineup, because it's a little bit different than in years past, I would say, years past you had Mikey Labriola, you had Luke and Cole there. You had guys that were just sort of journeymen. Now you have guys that were
blue chippers. Yep.
Now you had JV guys that are now on the varsity. But they're still performing very well, and they're all ranked. These are guys I'm looking up for results from, what they did, and I'm like, wow, these guys were JV, and now all of a sudden they're ranked top 20 in the state. Is this year's team a little bit, obviously it's something you're not accustomed to, I guess, but is it something that you really enjoy seeing these guys develop into a program and a team that is like, hey, look, we do a lot. We don't just have blue chippers. We have a full lineup of studs.
Yeah, Jeff, and that's a great question with that and great statement. Like I said, it goes back to these kids. I mean, I know what we're capable of. I know the work that they put in. I mean, I'll be the first one to say we go year round. That's what we do here. And the kids, you know, they know if they're joining this program, they have to invest in it. I mean, that's the way it is, you know. Don't get me wrong. If they play another sport, they play another sport. But if you're not doing another sport, I expect you to be in the room. I expect you to go with us when we go to tournaments. And, you know, that's where it happens. I mean, anybody that's followed wrestling, you know how it is. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And I'll go back to October. I mean, we went to those Columbus State duels, and that was virtually just our team, right. These guys. And we won the Columbus State duels. And, you know, we had kids knocking off some tough guys, you know. Another kid in my lineup, Matt Arciola. I mean, you don't hear much about him. He was hurt last year. He's starting to, you know, make his way in the lineup now. I remember back at Columbus State duels, he beat that the state runner-up from Jersey that just won Beast at 145, that Cabanillas kid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, no one really knows that, but because no one's doing, you know, a lot of people aren't doing off-season tournaments, but I know it. You know, I see what they're doing. I see the progress. And, you know, I didn't say much in the beginning of this year, but I'm excited about this team. I just think we're very well balanced all the way through our lineup. I really don't look at our lineup and say, hey, we have a hole here. You know, any coach, being honest, can always say, we're weak here. I just feel we don't have a hole. And probably the scariest part about it is we're young. Yeah. I mean, I really only start 3 seniors. So, you know, it's good. It's good. Like I said earlier, I'm blessed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But make no bones about it, the kids did the work. They put the work in. You know, these kids, like I said, I mean, they weren't at the level they are now last year. They put the time in. They went to the lifting sessions. They did the practices here in the offseason. They went to all the tournaments we went to. And that's what makes a difference.
I mean, I know when we were talking beginning of the year and we were Eric and I were discussing like team rankings, and I'm like, man, Becca doesn't, you know, there's not a whole lot of names returning, but all of a sudden you see these results and you see these guys whose names you don't recognize knocking off state medalists, state qualifiers, and you're like, okay, now I see where it's at, and now I feel very confident and comfortable, you know, putting Becca in that conversation of, you know, repeating that, you know, getting that state title back. So, you know, we're looking.
Well, you know what, Jeff, I didn't mean to. I just want to tell you this. I mean, you know, a lot is about, you know, you look at individual records, and last night was an indication of that. I mean, you know, we go to the Beast, we go to the Ironman. You know, I'm going to try to go out and get my kids the best competition they can. Right. I don't want any kid on my team to go undefeated, because you get a loss, that's when you're going to learn. You know, so we go out and we try to get those tough matches. Last night, we were wrestling Liberty team was a very good team. They had kids on their team with 20-1 records, 18-0 records. I got kids with 9-4 records. You know, and they're beating them. It's just that's you know, that's what we're going to do. I mean, you know, I'm not going to worry about your record. I'm going to worry about the result at the end of the year. That's where we want to be. We want to. These kids know what happened last year. Obviously, we talk about it all the time, and we want to get back to that spot. We want an opportunity to get back to that spot. Hopefully, we're fortunate enough. We stay healthy, and we can get back to that spot and, you know, wrestle a quality team like Nazareth or you know, Cathedral Prep, those schools out there. I mean, you know, you don't take them for granted. You get that window, and we're not going to be on top forever. You look at the history of sports; it doesn't happen forever. Sure. But you want to enjoy this period and make the most of it. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I look forward to seeing you this weekend, and, you know, just really happy with the way things are progressing for you. And I love always talking to you about wrestling. We could have an hour-long podcast with you, but I know you got a match to go. So I just want to thank you for taking the time out and joining us here on the podcast, and look forward to seeing you this weekend, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Jeff, and thanks for all you do for the sport of wrestling, especially in Pennsylvania.
Hey, I appreciate it, and safe travels to Escape the Rock, and we'll see you soon.
All right, great coaches food concession stand for the coaches room is unbelievable. I'm really looking for it. We didn't go to it last year. Oh man, it's unbelievable.
I remember last year. There was a lot of fun there. There was a hangout spot, you know. So I'm sure I'll be seeing you there, and Mr. Cruz there as well, you know. So best dressed coach there Mr. in Cruz. The state of Pennsylvania. Absolutely. All right, Coach. Yeah. Well, good luck tonight.
Okay. Hey, thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you. I love talking to him.
Yeah, that's a great guy. Great interview. You know, some insightful stuff there, and, you know, somebody that appreciates what they've been able to do over the past 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, and you know, just as he said, I mean, when I look at the rankings, you know, earlier this year when I'm looking at the team rankings, and I'm saying, you know, Kiski, they return a whole lot of studs, and you're looking at Waynesburg, and just some other teams. And Becca, on the other hand, you're like, well, they got like 3-4 guys that are really good, but what's the rest of them look like? And I was apprehensive to really put them high up, and especially with like Nazareth. But now you see their team, and as Jeff's alluded to, you got guys that are 9-4 knocking off state medalists and state qualifiers who are coming in 26-1. So I love his philosophy. I love the way he does it, and he keeps those guys hungry. And you'll see it. You look back at their box scores, you'll see a lot of their second string guys are getting action like tonight, or they're getting action against teams that they wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity to wrestle. I mean, I think that's what really. Speaking as I was JV for 2 years of my high school career, and there was times when I'm like, man, do I really want to do this? What am I doing here? But my Coach Jeff Swigert, always made it a point to, if he could insert you into the lineup to get you that action, get you that mat time, he was going to do it. Get you to a JV tournament. So, I mean, personally, I know what that's like and how that feels, and I think it's a great thing what Jeff does, and it's paying off because you got guys who are winning JV district titles last year that are now ranked top 20 in the state. Something's working. So, really like hearing his insight into the philosophy of Bethlehem Catholic.
Well, and I think that's the difference between building a great program and building a great team. You can have a team for, 3 or 4 years of a lot of talented guys that can win you a lot of dual meets. But to develop that program, you've got to keep that going for 6, 8, 10 years. And in order to do that, you've got to have new guys that come in and step in and replace those studs that were in the lineup that have graduated. So you're right. The way he's doing it, of working those guys into the lineup when he can and keeping them hungry and motivated to get better and step in as a junior or a senior and be able to win 20 matches and be a state qualifier or a state medalist who hasn't seen much varsity action. That's huge. Yeah,
and as he said, I mean, people sometimes forget this. He's missing some really quality guys. Zach Glenn, as you said, a 2-time state medalist. Dylan Murphy. Those are guys that are on any other team right now. They're doing big things for him, and I hope that they're getting healthy, and that just gives him more options in that lineup. But I'm looking at this, and as he said, and as an unbiased person looking at this, I'm thinking, man, they really don't have a lot of holes. They don't have any holes, I would say. They're pretty solid throughout from top to bottom, which is scary for every other team in the state that's looking to get to the top. But, really looking forward to seeing him this weekend, looking forward to seeing how those guys wrestle. Not surprised that Ryan Anderson's up at 138. But he may get another belt. You never know.
I liked his comment that he'd be good at 95.
Right. Well, I think it was a compliment in the fact that he's so strong.
Yes.
I think, but it was an underhand, kind of, way to make fun of Ryan Anderson, who's. Yeah, that's great. That's great. They're going to have to resize the belt for him, but don't worry. He will probably come home with one. So looking forward to seeing Ryan competing this weekend and all of the Bethlehem Catholic wrestlers. So, Eric, that's going to do it for the PA Power podcast, and I hope you enjoyed our Escape the Rock preview. As always, you can check out PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs. Be sure to take into a listen. You're going to hear some coughing. You're going to hear some strange noises coming from them. But the college podcasts, I'll tell you what, they're a ragtag group, but they get results, brother. It ain't pretty, but they do a good job. Mason Beckman, Beck Diggity, and Tristan Warren Triz on the college podcast. They just had a wonderful podcast focused around the Drexel head coach, Matt Azevedo, and they had a really good discussion on the state of wrestling, and I love it. I mean, every week I listen to it. Every time they put out a new episode, I'm always thinking, man, they're always doing well.
Yeah, you don't know what they're going to do. They're entertaining, fun stuff to listen to.
Fun stuff to listen to. You may hear a cat in the background.
Cheetos.
Cheetos. You'll hear whatever it is, but it doesn't matter because the quality of professionalism and just wrestling expertise. I mean, talk about two guys. I mean, Mason and Tristan are two of the top guys to really talk about college wrestling, which I love, and that's why they're part of the team. So definitely take a listen over to the college podcast. If you're interested, you probably should listen to the War Up podcast. Greg Warnock and myself are on the Whip Yule podcast. We do a lot of good things there as well. I'm an impartial person, but I think we do a good job. And you can follow along on Escape the Rock. on Twitter at PA Power Wrestle on Twitter, and find us on Facebook as well. We're going to have some results. We're going to have pictures. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have it all from Escape to Rock. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again to Jeff Karam for joining us. I know he's in between practice and having a match tonight, so I know he's busy. I appreciate his time. Looking forward to seeing him this weekend. And until next time.